Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a delicious lunch. Okay, and now I've lost my presentation. Please bear with me for 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience. So, Commission 2, we focus on defining recidivism and possible reduction strategies. So, the Commission discussion centered on, first of all, as I said, we looked at defining of recidivism, and then the development of strategies to strengthen the parole system in South Africa. Now, the deliberations captured a range of expert insights and stakeholder perspectives, highlighting both the challenges encountered in measuring recidivism and then also the limitations that we are facing when we deal with rehabilitation and in the parole practice. So the participants identified a number of potential solutions aimed at improving offender integration and enhancing the overall effectiveness of the parole system. So in broad, I'll get to the definition now. We said that we would like to focus, first of all, on assessment, then on programs, on concerns with the implementation of the ORP, annual performance plans and targeted statistics, case management committees and the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board, and community corrections. But I think we were a little bit optimistic. We didn't even get to half of those points. So I'm going to get feedback on what we've discussed, and then we're going to highlight some, Dr. Grobler is going to highlight some of the areas that is definitely critical for us to look into in future. So, starting off with the definition. The discussion began by highlighting the absence of a uniform definition of recidivism, which hammers measurement and management efforts. So the Commission engaged in extensive collaboration on the conceptual and definitional paradigms of recidivism. The central question concerning whether recidivism should be defined in relation to the repetition of the same type of offence, such as economic crimes, violent crimes, sexual offenders, sort of set the stage for the discussion. So this raised a broader debate between those who favoured a more criminological understanding of behavioural patterns versus those who were more focused on offence-specific definition. Now, the Commission agreed to prove that the proof of recidivism must be on a legal basis. In other words, that a person can only be defined as a recidivist based on the commission of an additional crime and not based just on a transgression, for example, the breaking of a parole condition. So that was quite important for us. So another issue considered was whether recidivism should be linked only to sentences of imprisonment, or if it should also be linked to other types of offences, for example, financial crimes, or in terms of sentences like a suspended sentence or a fine, or so on. So the emerging consensus leans towards a broader definition that included all types of offences, and not only the sentence of imprisonment, or all types of sentences. Finding the time interval between offences, which is referred to as the desistance period, was carefully discussed, and that was really quite a heated debate with very valuable insights. A balanced approach of a 3-year desistance period was generally favoured for some categories of crime. But in general, the consensus was reached that for serious crimes such as sexual offences, aggressive offences, and gender-based violence, that there should not be any desistance period. And if there should be one, then it should literally be a period of about 10 years. So it should be quite an extensive period. So based on the deliberation, the Commission proposed the following draft definition. And it's important to note that this is a draft definition, meaning that this sets the stage for us that we can work from. So the definition reads, recidivism is a behavioral pattern whereby an offender previously found guilty of a crime and sentenced by a court of law commits a further unspecified offence within the desistance period of 3 years, calculated from the completion of the original sentence or, where applicable, prior to the full lapse of the sentence, is again found guilty and receives an additional unspecified sentence. In cases involving sexual offences, aggressive offences, and gender-based violence, the desistance period extends to 10 years. So that's the basic definition that we as a Commission proposes. Next slide, please. So, okay, thank you. Next slide, please. The second area focus of the Commission was the effectiveness of the parole system and offender rehabilitation. This discussion was framed by the principles articulated by the UK Parole Board, namely, if the parole board members decide, after weighing the evidence, that a prisoner should be released, this is not because they think that the prisoner now poses no risk, but that the risk has been reduced to a level that can be effectively managed in the community. The perspective underpinning the Commission's deliberation and highlights the core purpose of a parole, namely, not to eliminate risk entirely, which is seldom possible if we are very, very honest with each other, but to ensure that any remaining risk is at a level that can be responsibly and effectively managed through community supervision, structured support, and rehabilitation measures. Next slide, please. So we then moved on to discussing the assessment tool. Now, in our discussion of the assessment tool and correctional sentence plan, the current G303 assessment tool used in the department were critiqued in that it primarily serves as a documentation rather than an in-depth evaluation instrument. The correctional sentence plan is described as a framework that categorizes offenders by crime type and history, but lacks dynamic analysis of professional input for tailored interventions. Stakeholders emphasize that while the tool will provide a baseline information, the effectiveness is limited by poor implementation, lack of multidisciplinary involvement, for example, the inclusion or active inclusion of social workers, psychologists, criminologists, educationists, and medical personnel, and insufficient training of officials administering them. The absence of qualified professionals in the assessment process results in inaccurate risk screening and non-targeted interventions undermining rehabilitation efforts. So based on the discussion, the Commission emphasized that the parole process commences at the point of an offender's admission to correctional centers. With the development of the Offender Rehabilitation Plan, or the ORP, forming the foundation of the process. Central to the ORP are offender assessment, particularly the G303s and correctional sentence plan, which guides decision-making throughout the rehabilitation and reintegration process, and the parole trajectory. To strengthen these processes, it was recommended that to start off, we had a very heated debate if we should introduce another assessment tool. But the consensus was that let's stick with the G303 because that is what is implemented and used at the moment. But it was recommended that the G303 tool be digitized to enhance efficiency, accuracy, and accessibility across all facilities. Furthermore, research should be undertaken to evaluate the tool's effectiveness with adaptation introduced to ensure its validity and reliability. The Commission also highlighted the need for a multidisciplinary approach to offender assessment and sentence planning. Such teams should draw on the expertise of social workers, psychologists, criminologists, educationists, and they also include the unit managers. A distinction should be made between unit managers and security staff or personnel, with unit managers being formally classified under occupational group responsible for offender rehabilitation and reintegration, and not as disciplinary staff members. Lastly, it was recommended that an audit of DCS staff members' qualifications must be done to identify staff members who are already in the department and who is trained within these relevant disciplines, of which we know there are many. So these individuals should be strategically deployed to maximize the department's emphasis, human capital, and strengthen the implementation of assessment, rehabilitation, and reintegration programs. Next slide, please. So, regarding rehabilitation programs, members of our Commission concurred that the programs face severe shortcomings, including outdated content, insufficient duration, and lack of evidence-based design. Offenders are often receive condensed or superficial programs delivered short before parole board hearings, leading to minimal learning or behavioral change. Some offenders sign attendance register sheet without actually participating, which raised serious concerns within our Commission. There was a call for programs to be developed in collaboration with academic institutions to ensure relevance and efficiency, addressing both offence-specific and offender-specific needs. Transition programs to facilitate reintegration from high security sections to lower security sections, I think, was also a very interesting and a recommendation that we should definitely consider, because we don't take into consideration that if, for example, an offender transfers from a high maximum security center to a medium security center, that entails transition. And in order to prepare them for that, might make it easier for them to adapt. But that also will then start off the whole process of preparing them for reintegration. Budget constraints and the prioritization of security over rehabilitation contribute to inadequate staffing and underutilization of qualified professionals within the correctional department. The Commission recommended that programs should be available to offenders from the very beginning of their sentences, ensuring that rehabilitation is embedded throughout the incarceration period. Importantly, access to programs should not be restricted based on their sentences, because at the moment the procedure is basically that only offenders with a sentence longer than 24 months that they undergo assessment and that they've got access to programs. So it should be extended to all offenders regardless of their sentence length. It was furthermore emphasized that evidence-based programs must be developed, drawing on the expertise and resources of the DCS research unit, as well as partnership with universities. These programs should be subjected to constant evaluation of the effectiveness, with assessment grounded in user voice principles to ensure that offenders' perspectives and experience are meaningfully incorporated. We had an example where one of the members of our Commission spoke about an inmate who served a life sentence. And when she actually sat down and talked to him, one of his greatest fears was, if I go out, I've been here for 10 years plus. I don't know how an A-team works. I don't know how to engage with my family members. And that's often the smallest stuff that we overlook because we produce programs. But that's an important part in offender integration, specifically if we talk about our long-term offenders. Now, the Commission also underscores the importance of appropriately trained facilitators, noting that programs should be delivered only by individuals with the necessary professional qualification and expertise. In addition, programs should be clearly defined and categorized to reflect the diversity of offenders' needs. This includes not only psychosocial intervention, but also skills development, education, and religion programs, all of which contribute to holistic rehabilitation and reintegration. So the comment here was as well is that often if we talk about offenders attending programs, that they will refer to social worker, psychological, or the designated programs, overlooking education, skills development, and then other religious programs. Next slide, please. So, unfortunately, due to time constraint, this is how far we got. While valuable progress was made, a number of critical issues remain that require further exploration. But just to summarize, so first of all, our recommendation is that we have to finalize a clear, behaviorally informed definition of recidivism, one that includes time limits for most offences while distinguishing serious crimes, such as sexual and gender-based violence, which may carry no expiration period. It was recommended that the definition proposed by the Commission be used as the basis for the finalisation of such a standardised definition. So the second big recommendation was to dignitise and standardise the assessment tool, and in this regard referring to the G303, ensure that they are evaluated and properly applied through integrated multidisciplinary teams to strengthen accuracy and risk needs analysis. We recommended that rehabilitation programs should be enhanced by grounding them in evidence, extending the research reach and duration, and tailoring them to offender profiling and specifically type of offences. We also said utilise qualified staff members within the correctional system more effectively, making a clear distinction between the role of security personnel and those responsible for rehabilitation and integration. Now we understand that the opinion is that every correctional official should be a rehabilitator as well. But at the same time, to create that distinction in terms of this section deals with rehabilitation, this section deals with security, might be easier at the end of the day. So implementing transition programs that support offender integration across different security levels was also a recommendation, and then steering case management and parole board processes through improved data quality, regular assessment, and the coordinated multidisciplinary input was our last recommendation. Now, the Commissioner at the end stressed that the time allocated for Commission 2 was definitely insufficient, given the gravity and complexity of addressing offender recidivism and strategies required for its prevention and management. It was therefore recommended that a dedicated 2-day workshop should be held to allow for a more comprehensive unpacking of these and all related aspects. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to Dr. Grobler to address the other urgent matters that we did not have time to attend to. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Professor Skuman for standing in and providing feedback while I wear two hats. Just to recap, our group focusing on the offender rehabilitation path, because as we said, rehabilitation efforts starts when the offender is committed to his center to start his sentence. It doesn't start when they're up for parole, which is sadly so often the case. Okay, it starts at the beginning. So that's why we focused on the offender rehabilitation path and the important components of it. Prof. Skuman has covered assessments and she's covered programs, and that's kind of how far we got. In fact, we didn't even finish with programs. The next thing we were looking at was the concerns around the implementation of the offender rehabilitation path. What are the limitations there? For example, posts that aren't funded or aren't specified. For example, the CAOs, the Correctional Assessment Officials. They also have to double up as security officials. Same with the CIOs. So there's a list of questions that we posed in terms of the problems, and we were looking for solutions. Right. The next one, annual performance plans, targets. This is a massively controversial topic because for some reason DCS and maybe more broadly in the state are driven by statistics. Okay, but our biggest problem here is what are we measuring? Because really, if I look at annual reports, if I talk to people, we're measuring heads. That's what we're measuring. How many attended this program? How many did this? How many didn't do that? We're not measuring the efficacy of what we are doing. Are the programs working? We don't know. Are the assessments useful? We don't know. All we're measuring is how many attend the assessments. Okay, but the biggest concern I have right now in terms of parole and the process is the 69% release targets that the parole boards have. So 69% of the profiles they see, they've got to release. And if they don't release, then the chairpersons are considered to be underperforming. This is unacceptable. What are we doing? It's also counterintuitive, because what are we doing? We're reducing, we're placing risk into the community, and what's going to happen? They're going to come back again. So we're not addressing rehabilitation, and we're basically using parole as a means of alleviating overcrowding. And as the Minister said yesterday, quite definitely, that's a no-no. And I believe these targets are going up annually. Next year it's 70-something, and then, I'm sorry, it's unacceptable. At the end of the day, the parole boards have got two considerations. Is that offender rehabilitated? And as we said just now, we can't say he's rehabilitated. We don't know. What we need to say is that offender a risk? And if he is, but he's okay to be managed in the community, that's what we look at. Okay, the second consideration, and the most important one, is the safety of the community. What are we releasing back there? And I think we need to stop this obsession with achieving targets, and we need to start looking at what really matters. Same with community corrections. We're measuring how many people in halfway houses, how many people have not violated. We're not measuring how are we helping them. Are their health needs being addressed? Are their family needs being addressed? Are we helping them with employment? Those are the things we need to measure. Okay, so that to me is incredibly important. And as we say, we didn't even get there. Number 5, we want to look at is case management, their committees, and the parole boards. Just around the parole boards, there were so many issues, from their contract problems to paperwork to everything. So we didn't even get there. And then the last thing, the recipients of the parolees were the community corrections, and a lot of factors around that as well we didn't get to. Honestly, and we, on top of it all, we had the rug pulled out from under us half an hour early while we were doing our deliberations as a commission. So those, can I just have the next? Yeah, and the next one? Next one? Yeah, so that's just to give you an idea, just going back to the concerns around the implementation of the ORP, Offender and Solutions. Those were the things we were going to look at. Finance posts, security versus rehabilitation. Now we know, look at the environment we're in. We're in a carceral environment, so yes, security takes preference, but it doesn't take preference over rehabilitation. Okay? The quality of the profiles received by the parole boards, what are they getting? I mean, I've seen profiles without the basics, with no SAP 69, never mind court records. How's the parole board going to make a decision with no information? The shift system is a major problem that needs to be looked at. Are there enough professionals to assist with rehabilitation efforts? No. We're looking at 1 psychologist to 2,700 offenders, 1 social workers to 277. Sorry. And then solutions we obviously also need to unpack. If we have the next slide, please. Yeah, this goes back to assessment targets. Now, as I said in the committee, I've spoken to numerous offenders, I've spoken to officials and research, and this is where we got our questions from. And most of them will say, because of compliance, we're looking at quantity over quality. That's what we're doing. And how, those other questions. And number 3 there, are the correct indicators being measured? And I've just given you examples of why they're not being measured. And then the 69% release targets, no. We've done that. APPs, no, and solutions. That would have been a whole exercise on its own. Next one, please. Yeah, we were going to do the CMCs, not in great detail, but you can't really, CMCs feed parole boards, so you can't ignore them. And then the parole system is almost a day's work. The actual parole is we need a lot more attention. So, for example, the question, is it administrative to comply with the Correctional Sentence Act? And what needs to complement the administrative process? What needs to complement it is the behavioral side. We don't have that. It's compliance. This is the policy. This is what you do. We need to balance it with the behavioral, the professionals. Okay. Shortcomings, cooperations. Yeah, these are just broad questions. Training has come up in numerous subjects which they're worried about. I don't want to sound too negative, but we did say the whole purpose of this was to expose the warts and to chop them off. Okay. So, I mean, we do have pockets of excellence. Let's not kid ourselves. But we have major problems that affect rehabilitation. Okay, I'm not timing myself. Have I had enough? Oh, DM. Okay.
Woman started and used that.
Oh, yes.
And I told you of that conflict of interest.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get a bit carried away.
You can't.
Okay. Terminate that.
Nothing. We must take others because you were not the only one in the commission and allow Plenary. 2:15, we should have been on this item. So I must protect you from yourself.
Oh, we still got to wrap it up.
You must give them also. I know it's work. We still gonna, as we sum up, we're gonna share with you.
15, okay.
Aha.
Thanks, DM. Okay. So we're not going to be able to take additional input. So on that note, can we adopt Commission 2's report? We do it. Okay. Right, we call, yeah. Yes. If I'm correct, who sets the targets? Is it strategic management? Who sets the targets for DCS? I don't actually know that. DCS? Dr. Masoma? Okay, they'll respond as they sum up later. Okay, so Commission, Mr. Fenter? But we can't reopen the Commission. We got time constraints. Is there something urgent? Yes. Yeah. So, the only thing we can do is have a separate workshop. We can't, that's what I'm saying. Are we accepting the report? And I haven't had any objections. So, okay. Report accepted. But it's certainly not the end of the road. We need a lot more discussion. Okay. Commission 3? Commission 3 is Dr. Mweni. Yeah, Dr. Mweni. Approaches, frameworks and guidelines on the response to high rate of recidivism among parolees and intersectoral cooperation and collaboration in relation to the parole board, including victims. Thank you.
Greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, and National Commissioner. Okay, thanks. My name is Dr. Vuyelwa Maweni, and I am the facilitator for Commission 3. Our topic was approaches, frameworks, and guidelines on the responses to high rates of recidivism amongst parolees and intersectoral cooperation and collaboration in relation to the parole system, including the victims. So as Commission 3, we have elected Mr. Zita to deliberate on the presentations and the inputs of Commission 3. So over to you, Mr. Zita. Thank you.
Greetings to the Honorable Minister, the Commissioner, and all protocols observed. In our commission, we agreed that we have a two-legged presentation. One that will have its own topic. Topic one being the approaches, frameworks, and guidelines on responses to higher rate of recidivism among parolees. And the second one, which deals with the integrated approach. I must firstly refer the audience to the previous speaker in terms of some of the content of what we're dealing with. We also worked from the basis of the ORT, the Offender Rehabilitation Path, ORPs. However, we thought that let's first identify the current situation and identify the problem statement or the deficiency in the current situation. And then we propose an intervention, and we also refer to some resources that might be relevant. First and foremost, we agreed that the fact that there seems to be an entitlement from the side of offenders that upon reaching their minimum detention period, they regard it as automatic that they will be then placed on parole. And what the problem with that is that then you get offenders who are not fully prepared for reintegration or placement on parole. The proposed intervention would be that we need to review and strengthen the implementation of the ORP, correctional and therapeutic programs implementers training as an intervention. So that's why I said we will refer to the previous speaker as well, because this was also touched. The next slide, please. Or rather, the next page. We also spoke to issues of inadequate security measures. This arises from the fact that we often find offenders with contrabands, and that makes the stay in the correctional center to what the public would then perceive as a hotel stay, because then it looks like they've got access to whatever they have to have access to. Number two, within that range, optionality of correctional programs. The Commission agreed that there's this issue of programs being optional in some other instances. And the Commission is of the view that programs must be compulsory accordingly. And late implementation of the correctional sentence plan. This speaks to the fact that closer to an offender being considered for placement or for by CMC, CMC bringing the offender to CSPB. It's only then in that 6 months that almost all the programs are pushed in to prepare the offender to see the board so that the offender may meet requirements in terms of the programs that are expected in accordance with the CSP, the Correctional Sentence Plan. We agreed that we have to balance the rights of the offenders with the rights that they violated. I've already indicated make programs compulsory. ORP to be effected with immediate effect from admission. The previous speaker did speak to that as well. And we need to improve security, adopt a zero tolerance of corrupt activities associated with contrabands, capacitating program implementers. The previous speaker did mention that as well. Next slide or next page. Though the data is not really clear on whether or not the higher number that is contributing to recidivism, is it coming from short-term sentences or not? But there's in the Commission, we agreed that there seems to be that there is a high rate of refunding among short-term offenders due to the period available for the programs to be implemented. As part of the way forward in that regard, we said we need interdepartmental collaboration to assist with the issue of short-term offenders. For examples, courts do have the jurisdiction or the right to make an order for an offender not to be placed out until a certain period of time. They may not exceed a certain period of time in terms of the court order. So where you find that an offender is re-offending continuously, but the sentences are minimal, so that if an offender comes back for the third time or for the fourth time, in that regard, let there be a recommendation from the court side that this specific offender should at least not be considered at half, or rather maybe serve 3/4 of the sentence as the Act prescribes. So they will need the cooperation of the justice class in that regard, in particular from the side of our judges and magistrates. Next. Also from the side of DCS, to consider to increase the minimum detention period from half to maybe 1/3. Number 4, lack of support for parolees by family and community members. That poses reintegration. So quite often you find that the offender is signed for by a girlfriend, for example. I have an example of a lifer that we had to send back to the minister because then the intimate relationship has collapsed, and that makes the support system to collapse as well. So we see there as a deficiency that comes with that, the stigma and reoffending. So we said one of the interventions would be to create public awareness programs about the role of community in reintegration of offenders. collaborations, halfway houses, etc., etc. And this is expected from CSPB community members, community corrections. Next slide. Here we chose to speak of an unemployability of ex-offenders. Due to a number of reasons, including issues of stigma and rejection of offenders in the labor market due to various reasons, of course, including criminal record. And what intervention can we bring there? We thought that part of the skills program should focus on entrepreneurial interventions such as new venture creations by CEDA. So this is when then the collaboration comes in to say this group of offenders, rather they complete a course in new venture creation and whatever skills, maybe it's painting and so forth and so on, so that when they go outside, they don't only look to be employed, but to create employment for themselves. This would be then expected from DSD, DCS, CEDA, NYDA, especially amongst the youth. Parole conditions, violations, tracking, monitoring, inefficiencies due to various factors, including resources, inadequate support due to various reasons. We also identified in the commission that we've got a significant number of offenders that come back due to parole violations, not necessarily committing crimes. And in this case, we then said the monitoring resources, physical, personnel, dysfunctional family dynamics are actually considered as the deficiency or the problem statement. In this regard, we said the resources mobilization as well as social work services might be of assistance in ensuring that this is addressed. And we referred to DSD. They've got livelihood interventions, SAPs to have a parole database. In this case, one example, an offender, a parolee, was arrested and then given a bail, went home without the department knowing. So that parole database to be made available to SAPs would assist in that regard. And also DCS to provide social work services to such offenders, because sometimes you find that there is a squabble in the family. The offender has been away for quite some time, and he happened to be the firstborn, and the parents all passed away. So it's only the sister who's there, who is signing for him. Then when he comes back, he wants to take over everything, and then the sister. Then they start squabbling, and then eventually that offender loses support. Please proceed. Offender rehabilitation path not receiving optimal attention. This the previous speaker spoke to quite well. But what deficiency or problem statement are we getting from there is that then we get ill-prepared offenders for reintegration if we are not optimizing the correctional sentence plan. And what intervention are we looking at? Strengthening of program implementation, use system approach to addressing internal gaps, and also consider total quality control systems. Next. So in terms of the intersectoral cooperation and collaboration in relation to parole systems, including victims, again here, the previous speaker did speak to this, late victim offender dialogue initiatives. We have already spoken to this part that for 25 years or 20 years, we stay with the offender in our correctional center and then only remember that there is a victim when it's 6 months for the offender to be placed on parole. This deficiency or problem statement here, it's a lack of coordinated victim management system. And we believe that DSD must be engaged with the victims from court. The victim must also be informed of the offender appeal and offender dialogue, so that the victims should be in the know where an offender who was sentenced to life and all of a sudden there's an appeal and the appeal is successful. And we believe, therefore, also that the DOJ or Department of Justice might be of assistance in terms of subsidizing the transport fare for the victims, especially to attend the victim offender dialogue, as well as to attend the VEP, victim participation in the parole board. Next, courts not engaging adequately with victims post-sentencing. So this is one also a situation which is in existence, and this what's the problem there is that then we lose victim data. So you find that after 5 years or 10 years, we start looking for the victim and we can't locate the victim. So we say Department of Justice, DCS and DSD, if there can be a way in which we can manage the victim data in a way that is integrating or integrative. Thank you very much to this far. I would like to then open for the members from this commission. Oh. All right, thank you very much.
I'm being usurped. Thank you very much, Commission 3. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. And it's much of what was discussed mirrors very much what Commission 2 was also talking about. And that's, in a sense, that's a good thing, because at least we're all getting onto the same page now. So, are there any outstanding issues from members of Commission 3 that they want to raise? Nothing. Anything from Plenary? There's a hand at the back there.
It's just an addition for Commission number 3 in relation to all the criminogenic factors that have been mentioned. I think we need to consider the electronic monitoring as a solution, as an approach, in order to reduce reoffending, because from what had happened before, we realized that electronic monitoring is an effective tool in terms of creating your exclusive and inclusive zone in relation to parolees, so that they don't go to the life of crime, and also so that they don't threaten the victims of crime. I think it should be one of the interventions that we need to come up with as a result, or as an intervention to all the criminogenic factors that have been mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That will be duly documented. At the back there.
Thank you very much, Facilitator. In addition to the Commission, just to say that we had also indicated that we need to have a full stakeholder mapping of the value chain, so that we don't leave anyone behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. Mr. Venter?
Thank you. Thank you, Program Director. I think one issue that I'm not sure whether it was a consideration in the Commission is the issue of parole review, and particularly the roles of head of community corrections, because they on the receiving end of whatever happens, and this offender gets placed out, and then they basically sit with that risk. And some of them actually identify the risk, but they are not sure whether they are part of the process of taking this matter on review. So I think what we've encouraged our heads of community corrections to be on the lookout for cases that they deem, that they would deem with their understanding that this case should not have been paroled as a matter of mitigating the risk. So that's the one. I'm not sure, Chair, if I can go to the definition also, or is that closed?
Okay, we can't reopen the commission.
Okay, fine, sir.
So whatever you contribute now will be noted. Team, will they be dealt with at all at any stage, or is it just going to be documented? Yes, the Minister will deal with it, Mr. Benton.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Minister. Any more questions? There's one there. Okay, last one, please.
Thank you. As part of Commission 3, it's just to raise that there is a contribution from JICS, which is part of what we're dealing with, but it is not going to be presented now. It will be availed.
Okay, thank you for that. Noted. Can we adopt the report of Commission? Oh, sorry, I forgot about you. Sorry. Yeah.
Definition of a victim. We said as much as the Act defines what a victim is within the parole system, we believe that it should be expanded within the Act so as to include neighbors, community, even the offenders' relatives when a parolee is about to be released for obvious reasons, not to leave it to the discretion of those responsible. It must be in the Act so that there is no discretion.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Noted. Is that it? We adopt the report of Commission 3? Right, adopted. Thanks very much. Thank you, Commissions. I think everybody did very well. Yes, there was a lot of information, and there was also a lot of eagerness in the commissions, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll now hand over to the National Commissioner. Oh, sorry. I think I'm fired. Sorry.
Bye-bye. You must get used to that there is a minister and the deputy minister. Must get used to. Thank you very much for the sterling work you've done. Let's give her a round of applause. And let's continue giving ourselves as Commission 1, 2, 3, 4 a round of applause for the work done. And we acknowledge the time allocated to Commission. The Minister, the National Commissioner, as they do their way forward and summarizing and closing, they will give us those because the work doesn't end here. It will continue even after with those that are given the opportunity. Thank you very much for participating. We are 1444 and 1445. We're supposed to be ushering the National Commissioner, and we shall do so. I think we've done a lot of work. Just within a minute, I want to share my story with you, which I shared with the judge. That in 2019, I was hijacked. I was hijacked by parolees and an alleged to be in Mangaung were two, and one was a parolee. And when I attended their court, I was that witness who was never seen as a victim. And once I've testified, it was a done deal. I think I'm a living testimony to say whether you're in the executive. By then I was just resigned as a mayor, I was driving myself, I was hijacked. But when I went through court, I was an MEC. And there's no special treatment. When you come to court, you are just an ordinary South African, take a witness stand, give your case. And when they were giving on a sentencing day, it was not even called. I just received that, no, the other guys have given further sentenced. But I'm saying they were parolees, 3 of them. 2 were supposed to be in Mangabung, 1 was a parolee. But I was never given a closure as a witness and a victim of that hijacking. So our system really, this working together and finding a way, it's key at all costs. Whether you're in the executive, whether you're an ordinary citizen, it should happen. So I'm challenging all the judges to say, in your own courts, also, just to NPA and those IOs to say, have you done X, Y, Z to that witness? Because sometimes they just neglect them and government is blamed. I am a living testimony. I said to the National Commissioner, I want to go and visit that sentence offender to say, you hijacked me, you took my money, you tortured me, so that we find closure. So we are many victims walking around. That is why in our commission we said there's trauma that everybody is carrying, and hence other people will react differently and re-offend. Some it's out of anger of the trauma that was never addressed. So, but it's a learning curve for all of us, so that we learn from it and we improve our system as we are in offices. On this time, I don't want you to be sad for me. I'm a survivor, and I've dealt with it. And that is why one day I'm going to come face to face with him. Don't stress about me. I'm stronger than I look. So I'm going to call the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Ndate Tobagale, to come and give us a summary of the key outcomes and a way forward. Over to you, NC.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Minister, all the participants in the summit, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and members of the Portfolio Committee. I am going to be very technical in the sense that I will not go into the content issues. Because the content issues have been reported to by the commissions, and there is a record on the content issues. There is going to be a process of putting together the report, a process which will be detailed and comprehensive. So, and it will be done in an environment that allows it to be thorough. So here I'm just going to treat themes and timelines. And also just to show the structure of the action plan that the final report will have. If you look on the screen, you will see that we have 3 aspects of the work that needs to be done beyond this summit. The first aspect is legislation and policy work. The second aspect is strategic planning work. The last aspect is operations. Under legislation and policy, we will take advantage of the currently ensuing processes of reviewing the Correctional Services Act, and also the current ensuing processes of reviewing all legislation that applies, affect, or is affected by the criminal justice system. And that we will do by ensuring that we work closer, including making submissions, and of course, receiving inputs from the Law Reform Commission. So that is the first one. If you check the time frame there, you will see we are giving a time frame up of May 2027, but I must emphasize that this process depends on the leadership
of the ministry, as this will be submissions that will be made also to cabinet moving forward. It's a space that one will then not get into detail on, as I've indicated that it's a process that is led by the ministry, as administration will provide technical and content support. And then there's the second aspect, which is strategic planning. Government is going to get into that process. We're going to finalize our strategic plans. We will carry this into the strategic planning processes so that the annual performance plan of the financial year 2026-2027 can reflect these activities or projects, for them also to receive the necessary funding and the necessary allocation to branches within the department for implementation to happen. Then the last part is the operations. This is what we are going to identify more. We are going to identify more than these 6 points, or what you see on the screen, from all the commissions and also from discussions from plenary, on issues that needs immediate attention. For instance, I've already spoken about reviewing and making submissions to the Law Reform Commission. It's written common, the commission. Apologies for that, that's just a typo. There was a matter mentioned of reviewing the draft policy document, or the draft reform document. Those are actions that needs to be implemented immediately. There's an issue about the MOU between the Department of Correctional Services and the Department of Social Development. That is a task that we cannot say should wait for longer than the time frame that has been indicated there. And then there are 2 additional notes there at the bottom. The first one is that we will endeavor to ensure that we have the draft report of the summit by end of October. Now the process is that we will then provide an avenue for those that have been invited to be able to make inputs into finalizing the report. There are a number of avenues that we are considering exploring. It can either be consultative forums through virtual platforms or submissions, but the essence is that we will not finalize the report of the summit without making it a point that we get everybody who participated, all organizations who participated, to at least have a view of the draft report and be able to input on it. The last part is that we are going to identify reference groups given the outcomes of the summit itself, and of course, the first one is the legislation and policy review. And we will then invite those that were participating individually and also organizations to be part of reference groups. This will be groups that will be interacting with the task teams that are already existing in the department, so that we don't lose touch with the external voice with regards to the parole review process, because it involves more than the review of the legislation, the review of the policy. There's issues on regulations, there's issues on operations and strategic matters, as I've indicated. Now, the constitution of the reference groups will be done both ways. We will reach out for those who want to volunteer, we'll give that opportunity, and there will be also task-based meaning that out of all of us here, we would then identify a specific specialized task that might need to be performed by a specialist in that area, and we will then engage that or those specialists. So that is the process from a technical point of view. Thank you, Deputy Minister, Program Director. My last point is that those issues that you see there are not exhaustive. It was just a structure to show how the action plan that will be part of the summit report is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner. I think that it's clear that work will definitely continue from the technical, and we'll be making sure that we conclude that business. As this time, we're calling on our Honorable Minister, Dr. Peter Groenewald, to come and give the closing remarks. Can we all rise as the Minister approaches? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please be seated. Who's assisting with this? Okay. Don't want to break it. Thank you, Program Director. I want to say to all ladies and gentlemen, from my side, when we started yesterday, in my opening remarks, I referred to this is actually our Corrections Week in the Department of Correctional Services, meaning that annually Correctional Services have a Corrections Week where we reach out to communities, where communities get involved in certain activities, learning more about correctional services, and of course, correctional services also in terms of our communities. And I want to thank you all, because this summit, I see, is a good kickstart when we say that corrections is a societal responsibility. And that's what we did. We took hands and we look at a fundamental issue and a problem in our whole society in terms of how do you deal with the criminals in your society. I have in my mind that somewhere I saw the slogan of the type of criminals in a society depends on the society itself. That is what it is. And I think for too long, there was a separation between correctional services and, can I say, collaboration, taking hands with civil society and our communities. And I'm very, very pleased with what we obtained and heard in terms of the parole system specifically in this summit. And I want to thank you for your openness, for your honesty. When I became the minister, I said to my officials, everyone can make a mistake, but be honest. Don't lie to me. If you lie to me, you will be disciplined. And there were certain such cases. Even if it is criticism, I also said that you can only solve a problem when you know the problem and if you're not in a state of denial. So, we heard today and yesterday presentations of identifying crucial matters to solve the problem of parole. And I see parole as the center of correctional services, because that is part of rehabilitation. And we must ensure that we have proper rehabilitation of our inmates, because in the end they will be returned to civil society. And yes, I will be the first one to admit that there are serious shortcomings when it comes to professional people, social workers, psychologists, criminologists, and we must increase those numbers because they play a very, very important role when we talk about rehabilitation. But having said that, I also want to say that there is also some good news. Some of the problems raised there, I can say today, has already been solved. Let me start with the backlog on the parole applications of lifers. You saw the figures. I inherited a backlog of 495 applications. It had severe consequences. Litigations, using taxpayers' money to defend. And by the 3rd of October last year, me and my team worked hard and we were 100% up to date. And we are, as we speak here today, 100% up to date. And it will stay like that. So that will solve one problem. I also want to say, I am on record where I said already last year, we're looking into the process of electronic bans for our parolees. We are in an advanced stage of implementing it as we speak today. And why I said that we must focus on that, I do believe if you have proper electronic monitoring of your parolees, you need less personnel to ensure that they comply to the conditions in terms of parole. So there are steps taken. But when we come to personnel, as I refer to psychologists and those professional people, those of you who are criminologists and psychologists and social workers, we must be honest, you don't come cheap. But we understand. You worked hard in your studies to become one. But it is also a reality that we do have severe budget constraints. But that's our problem. That's my problem as minister, to be able to speak in cabinet, to say, but this is the situation. And I can assure you that I will do, well, I already started doing that last year, and I will continue doing that. The good news is that in my budget vote, earlier this year in July, all political parties, and I say all political parties in Parliament, and the members of the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services agreed to say that we must increase our budget for correctional services because the present budget is insufficient. All of them support them. But it is a question to get hold of that. And then I say, the focus also when it comes to employees, we must focus on our wardens. We don't have enough wardens. I visited the Westville Correctional Center last year and again this year, and 4 wardens had to see to 650 inmates. It's not correct. So we have to focus on them. And then, secondly, my focus would also be on the professionals, as I said. So, from our side, between me and the Commissioner, we do not shy away from criticism, and all my officials as well, they know that, can I say, criticism and justified criticism must be listened to. So don't see that your inputs is seen as criticism. I can assure you, I see it as support to solve a problem, to create a safer South Africa. And on that I want to say thank you. There were recommendations. The Commission number 2 actually asked for 2 more days. We will look into it because it is important, and I agree. And the Commissioner had said that there will be actions to get more of your people, or to get from your people to get involved even in task teams to look at the problem. My philosophy is always, the proof lies in the eating of the pudding. It's no use we talking about things. We must now do something about that what we are talking about. Or else we are wasting taxpayers' money to come together and just talk about the problems. And therefore, this will not be kept under or kept in file 13, as I always refer to it. Everybody will work hard. And I am on record with the Portfolio Committee on Correctional Services, because, you know, those politicians, those members of parliament, I'm also one, they also always want to say, but what date? Can you give me a date, please? Now, sometimes it is impossible. I see the Honorable Engelbrecht is smiling very wide. But the matter of the fact is that I said that I hope by next year, this time, that we will be in a very, very advanced stage. You saw yourselves that there are proposals, amendments to legislation. Now, the process of the amendment of a piece of legislation, unfortunately, it takes time. But we must continue with it. And we are already going to see whether there are certain amendments to the present Act in terms of correctional services, CSA, to see that we can, first time about the bill from social development, the victim support bill, we welcome it. But we must talk to each other, and we will go through that process. Having said that, you must also keep in mind that this will not be the only opportunity where we received inputs from the public, because you're part of the public, civil society. The process is, the moment we have an amended bill proposal in the department, it must be publicized in the Government Gazette, asking the public to participate and give their inputs. From there, we get it, we amend further, and then there's a process. In the end, it goes to Cabinet. If Cabinet approves, then the amendment bill, whatever the case may be, and the amendments may be, is then tabled in Parliament. The moment the bill is tabled in Parliament, it is referred to the Portfolio Committee of Correctional Services. They are obliged. They put advertisements out, and they ask the public for comments on the bill. So that will be another opportunity. And in the end, it will be the Portfolio Committee of Correctional Services that will make the final amendments. And then it will go to the National Assembly, where it has been adopted. In my whole political career, many years, I've never had a situation where a Portfolio Committee, a couple of, maybe 2 times, approved of a specific bill and then not approved in the National Assembly. So it also emphasized the most important role the Correctional Services Portfolio Committee plays. But in the end, it's you, the public, who give the inputs. And they are elected members. And they represent the people of South Africa. And they will listen. These 2 days, I've listened carefully. And don't think I've just sat there. I've listened very carefully. And I want to thank each and every one. I'm not going to make or refer to specific people. When you were welcomed, the NCCS, the Portfolio Committee, the presenters, everyone. From my side, I want to thank you for your time, firstly. And I do hope some of you will also become part of a further task team to see how we put those recommendations into practice. And if we can succeed with that, I know that it will be a delicious pudding to be eaten. Thank you from my side. We've taken hands. It's not going to end here. From my side, I want to take those hands and enhance on the way forward. And as I said, in the end, our goal must be, all of us, members of parliament, committees, judges, everyone, is to create a safer South Africa. Thank you for your presence. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause. We have come to the end of our summit. Let me also, on behalf of all program directors, thank you. And let me appreciate the support that you have given to all the teams that were in commissions, all our resource persons, all our facilitators. Let's also appreciate those that were cooking for us and the summit organizers. They've done so well. Thank you very much to the security team. We must make sure that we also thank them, the EST, making sure that coming into the facility, it's smooth and there's respect for everybody. Let's give also EST another round of applause. Also to our communications, let's give them a round of applause. We've been trending on TikTok, on WhatsApp, messages are coming in to say your Facebook, it's live, we're following the conversation, some were commenting, and we really appreciate communications because nobody can tell our story better than ourselves. Let's give them a round of applause once more. Hi man, NC ufuna ukukhotshara nami? Ama-organizers ndithethile ngawo ndithize, let me thank the organizers because if it was not easier, on a lighter note, NC, I did that. But our organizers of correctional services, really, every time you do your work, you excel. We must give flowers to you while you are still here so that every time you prepare for a function, irrespective of what it is, you do your best. And I noticed this morning, yesterday, Minister, it was green, Tafel Duke. No, they are white. It tells you that cleanliness is next to correctional services. Let's give a round of applause to yourselves. And as you travel back home safe, travel safe. It's a Heritage Day tomorrow. Don't do what we won't do. Don't drink and drive. You will be statistics of the Heritage Day because other people, after going to wherever they are going, some of us who are going to the Heritage Day, some to any other cultural activities, mind your drinks because they cause accident. You'll be unhappy in few minutes while you are behind bars. So make sure that you are safe, celebrate heritage with discipline, and travel safe, be safe as you travel back home, so that next time as we invite you at correctional services, you do come. Siyabonga kakhulu abafundisi, everybody that was present, our correctional services, parole boards, NCCs, everybody, our judges. Baya danke, hambani kahle, siyabonga.